אנחנו כאן היום כי אחרי כל כך הרבה זמן שאנחנו כבר עושים יין ומתאמצים ושומעים כל מיני ויכוחים גם כן, העיינות כן מתיישנים, לא מתיישנים, שלהביא מחוץ לארץ מומחים ולקבל דעה על הדרך שעשינו ועל העיינות שאנחנו עושים ועל הכושר ההתיישנות שלהם. כי זה השכבה העליונה של מבקרי יין בעולם. We live here since 71. My wife and I came, we're both from Egypt. We were both born in Alexandria. We married in Milan. We lived in Geneva and our daughter Ilana was born in Geneva. We came to Israel, she was 10 months old. My wanting to live in Israel was also to do another kind of life. The winery was built over the chicken shed, and if you look left and right, the construction is the chicken shed construction, and here in the middle we opened up to make the cuvier. We also dug down next to the building to have cellars. And today all our wine is aged in barrels, the white and the red. We already did the 96 vintage in this room. It was a hobby, but I did it seriously. We bottled it in 95, a bit late because we didn't know how to bottle. And Avi Edgar said, you have a serious wine here. And I said, yeah, but you're my friend, you like it. And then he said, no, it's a serious wine. And I know a lady, a journalist in Tel Aviv, Dalia Perlerner. She knows very well Serena Sutcliffe, and she can bring a bottle there. She was really impressed, apparently, by the wine, because she wrote back that this was the best Israeli wine she had ever tasted. And from that, at that point, we had to decide whether we're going to do this seriously or not, and we decided to become professionals. The first vineyards out of the house were in a small valley, one hectare in a small valley, less than a kilometer from here. And the year after we planted in Tsuba in 97, that was 96, 97. We moved from 4,400, which was already double what is done in Israel, to 3 times what is done in Israel. This is Chardonnay. Behind you is Merlot. Further up we have Cabernet. And the Chardonnay goes all the way around and up. The first Chardonnay we planted was planted at 4,400 on a place which was nothing had grown on it. Because it's really all hard rock. In some places we had to drill holes to put the vine. I think it's a beautiful terroir. It is 745 meters. All the new plantations are 6,700. We think our vineyards are still too young. It will take another 5 to 10 years to see really the quality and the concentration, which we might still lack a bit. We are now in the white wine cellar, which was in fact the first red wine cellar. Until 98, we only made one wine, and the quantities were small. So really, this was the only cellar we had. In 98, we started making the Petit Castell and also the white. The first white, was only 3 barrels. So we dug another cellar. We always have the new Grand Vin in the middle. On one side we have the Grand Vin of the year before, and on the other side the Petit Castell of the new year.
Probably do more religion in the process.
And because we know that you are very busy people. And if you came, for us it's a sign that Castell was important enough to convince you to take the time. רוברט ג'וזף זה master of wine, הוא כותב הרבה מאוד שנים על יין.
I think the whites are very interesting, and I think that we started with the 2010 that we shouldn't forget, which I think is looking really lovely. I think there's potential there, and there's a minerality there, which I can see from the vineyard, which I didn't actually see in some of the earlier vintages, which is interesting, and some freshness and really some very quite restrained characters, which appeal to me. I think an interesting example of a modern European style of Chardonnay. My own impression was it competed, in my mind, it was something like some of the Tuscan Chardonnays that I've tasted, but with less obvious oak. I like the 2005 a lot. Some melon, peach. 2008 to me was a little bit richer than I wanted it to be in comparison, for example. Petit Castell, one point I would make is I think that the gap between the Petit and the Grand is significant. There are, in some places in Bordeaux, sometimes the second wine is very close to the first wine, and in some places there's a gap. To me, there's a significant gap between the Petit and the Grand. That isn't a criticism, I'm just making that little comment. I like the 84, I like 2007, I think there's a richness, a berry, cherry fruit to it. There's a slightly dry finish that bothered me, but I think potentially it's going to be a very interesting wine. And I think that both 2005 and 2004, in their different ways, very different styles, I think will be very interesting. 2004, I need to see what's going to happen to it. There is slightly more vegetal character there than I personally want. I think other people. Very quickly, the Grand Vin, I think these are very impressive wines. I think these are international quality wines. I like the Grand Vin 2007, I think is going to be a very smart wine. I personally thought 2005 had one step above it, and I think that may be vintage related. I think the 2003 is actually, there's some real complexity to it. Between 2003 and the 2000, I ultimately prefer the 2003 personally. I think 2000 is maybe more pure. There's a lovely cassis Cabernet character. But what's interesting in these wines in the more recent years, there seems to be more complexity than there was in the earlier years. And in the older wines, I have to say, the 1999 I think is looking very impressive now. The 96 I liked in that set a lot, more probably than the two wines that Decanter wrote about. But the 93, I would like to say, really, congratulations. This is a wine made in a dustbin. And I haven't had many wines made in dustbins in my life, really, but this is a wine that is 18 years old, and I think is a very impressive. To me, this is what great wine, after it's going into it, it's developed.
Can I kiss you?
Can I just say? But sorry, I have an absolute rule. I never kiss anyone with a beard. And when I lived in a village in Burgundy, there was a lady in that village who had a beard and a mustache.
I keep on saying that we should develop an Israeli style of wine. And we should have the Israeli sunny wine made from varieties like Carignan or Mourvedre or Grenache or Petit Syrah. And here comes Eli, almost after 20 years.
Cutting
The branch I'm sitting on.
That I'm sitting on, against my thesis, and year by year, he comes with a marvelous Bordelais style Israeli wine.
ג'יני צ'וליז היא קוריאנית והיום היא מאסטר אוף ויין, המאסטר אוף ויין היחידי במזרח הרחוק, ומי שמבין מה שקורה ביין בהונג קונג, היא הפכה להיות הבן אדם הכי חשוב, הכי משפיע בשוק היין בהונג קונג.
In general, I have to say I was very impressed overall. In fact, I agree with almost everything you said, Robert, except for the fact that I thought the Petit Castell was of a very high caliber. I don't think the difference was so great that, you know, I don't know what the price difference is, but I thought they were closer than double. Okay, so that means Petit Castell is a very good value. The whites, the Chardonnays, I was really impressed in general with their restraint. They had a ripeness in the middle, but they were not tropical fruity, over the top. I thought they had a wonderful restraint about them. The younger vintages for me certainly were fresher, I think. When I went back to my notes, I realized that the wine, the Petite and the Grand Vin, it was the 2005 vintage that I loved, in all of them. So,
Parker, Mark Squires, give the 2004, 92, and the 2005 90. And in Paris, at in France, Revue de France, Poussier gave 16 to the 04 and 18 to the 05. So, you know, it's like this.
when I look for detail, when I look for depth, I find the detail is better perceived and more intricate if it's not so big. If there's a little bit of more restraint, and I got more of that in the 2005. You can compare them to Bordeaux or from California or Australia. For almost 20-year-old wines, even the 93, they are not over the hill. They're still there. They're present. They've evolved, and I think that's a testament to the quality. So congratulations.
Okay. Since Eli started making wine, it has been obvious that he was, at the very beginning, one of the most promising wineries in Israel. Over the last 20 years, he's proven that he is one of the most promising and one of the very best wineries in the country. There's no question about that. As to the development of the wines, I think some of the older wines fall out of the question of standards. They fall more into the question of personal taste. That is to say, the Englishman likes the older wines. The American will not appreciate the older wines. For example, okay, so here we're talking personal taste. I agree with what you said, though. None of the wines is truly dead. Some of them are very mature. I think some of them are sliding well past their peak. But again, there are people who will enjoy those wines because there are those people who seek out.
ביתן הוא ושותפו דוסוב הם האנשים המבקרי יין. המדריך ביתן דוסוב זה המדריך בצרפת.
For the Chardonnay, I think the youngest vintages are better because they are more refined, they are purer, they have better balance. And then after the one, well, it's personal taste, you know, never. Well, and I thought, for me, even if the 2005, which was in the reductive side, was very interesting, very long, very complex, to my taste was 2008, which was had the best balance. Okay. I did not see so much difference also between the Petit Castell and the Grand Vin, but it's normal because when you do well the job, the Petit Vin, when it's young, is better or more easy to understand than the Grand Vin. It's normal. It's after 20 years, if you find the Petit Vin better, that's a problem of, okay. I like very much also the direction of the new, the youngest vineyard, because the addition of Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot is adding complexity and nobility and more refined and complex tannins. And I thought 2007 for me was the best. But 2004 was very interesting because completely open, and 2005 has a lot of bread, is very interesting too. The older were for me less good. Then now for the Grand Vin, the same evolution, more complexity, more nobility, and perhaps tannins of more racy, tactile sensation in the youngest. And I thought the 2007 also was the one which formally, even if it's too young to drink, was the one I preferred. But the 2005 was very, very good in this case, and perhaps it will age longer than 2004. Then the older vintages were very interesting. The wines are here, they are very good, good balance. The one I preferred as a matter of balance was 1996. And then, of course, the first one was very nice wine, as done in conditions which were not the same, has perhaps more the taste of the winemaker than the taste of the terroir. You know, your sueur, your work was in it. Okay, but it's very nice, of course. Okay, it was a very interesting.
You want to kiss or to shake hands? When I studied the Petit Castell and then moved to the Grand Vin, I thought it's like music. The Petit Castell was like a ballroom with dancing the valse, which is nice and lovely and a bit younger people. And in the Grand Vin it was like classic music, like to listen and to savor it and to enjoy it and to see the evolution also in the wine. So for me it was two kind of best music, different but best. And I think for the white wine, for many years it was, especially with the Chardonnay of course, it was Chardonnay in Israel in many wineries, and it was the sea. The Castell Sea was totally different with different standard and different style.
יאן ון ליסום מהולנד, יש לו מגזין של יין וגסטרונומיה, משהו כמו יין וגורמה, הוא העורך שלו והוא כותב, הוא מארגן הרבה מאוד אירועי יין בעולם, הוא גם עושה יין בעולם, הוא גם העורך והכותב של הגומיו בהולנד.
For me, it was white is very surprising today. White, and especially the young vintage. And we see what's the difference in the beginning. The last two vintage. It is hard, but we see more freshness, more finesse, more drinkable, more balance. And personal, I like also the style of, for example, only me maybe, 2004 and 2001. And then I think a little bit about your neighbor, the other country above Moussard. It's not Chardonnay, but it's like Chardonnay and Semillon, but it's totally local grapes. You see some flavors coming together, very close. They see you are in this area. Okay, what about the red one? The Petit is hard for me. And it is hard. It's good? Yes. Is it super? For me? No. But I don't know nothing about price quality. Nobody tell me before. And 2001 I like very much. 2005 I like very well. But this kind of aromas is sometimes sharp. Acidity, the fruit, the earthy flavors of the Merlot. You have to make a mix of that, and I don't know exactly. Then I go for the Grand Vin. 2005 you take, 2001, 2000 for me personal, and it's surprising wine too. It's surprising. It's a lot of more intense and still alive, and a lot of flavors.
There is a difference between the Grand Vin and the Petit Castell. The difference is it's in the fineness and the purity. Maybe I'm looking for in the Grand Vin, which it's more earthy in the Petit Castell. There's more press wine in the Petit Castell. There's all the barrels and less time, and so in that way more fruit and more earth in the Petit Castell, and in the end it's really another wine and not a second wine. We are still going like a blind man in touching around him to see where he's going, and there are no clear answers.
It was great tasting, and my thanks to Ellie.
Thank you.